warriors. Living and surviving are two different things. Today's special guest is Tamara Zachery, president of What Works. Please give a warm welcome to Tamara Zachery.
Dear Life Warriors, it's me, Shar, your favorite corporate life coach. And today I am with my Aries sister. I'm so excited. Tamara Zachery's in the building with me today. She is currently president of What Works. She has the most impressive background, marketing, communications, you name it. We're going to learn all about that, but she also has a story. So let's welcome Tamara to the show.
Thank you, Shar. Thank you. It's really my privilege and my honor to be here talking to you today. You know how highly I think of you. So to be sitting on the side is like a little intimidating, but I'm ready. I'm ready.
Stop it. So my Life Warriors, Tamara and I have history, so every now and then I do get to interview people that I've actually worked with, which is so cool and amazing because we get to, reminisce and reflect on our time together in corporate America. But I really truly, Tamara, I think you went from, we worked together at a healthcare company. I was in human resources. You were doing your marketing thing, which you're fabulous at.
Thank you.
And then when we left, we kind of left the same time, I think. You transitioned, I'm watching you on Instagram and your world just went like, what, girl? Ha! You are now president of What Works, which, by the way, that suits you so well.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like I'm walking in my path now in every sense of the word. I am absolutely where I'm supposed to be.
No, seriously. I'm like, wow, she literally did it. She landed somewhere that makes so much sense, that really complements who you are as a person, your creative side, all that wonderful stuff. But I know there was a journey. Do you mind talking about the journey? Because I kind of know the journey a little bit, but I'm so curious to see.
Yes.
How did you get there?
So, I will. So, my story is, I like to say it's the most complicated but easy story to understand. Once one understands all the pieces that went into this. I think also, the older I get or the more mature I get, the more experiences I have. Mm-hmm. You come to realize that really there are, as long as you're living consciously, making smart choices and doing your best every day. And that doesn't mean showing up perfect, because none of us are perfect. That all the steps make sense when you get there. Like when you get to these places, when you get to where you want to be, or you have these moments that are pivotal for you, you can actually start to realize that every step mattered, whether it included immeasurable success or immeasurable failure.
You connected the dots.
Yes, the dots start to connect.
Yeah.
And then when you have that sort of like aha moment, then you like really get in the groove, right? Yeah. So let's start, I guess, just at the point at which I met you, right? Because that actually was one of the first steps in actually making a decided change in my life.
Yeah.
So at the time when we had the amazing good fortune of working together, and I do have to say, working with you really did change my life in many ways, because it was one of the first times that I met somebody who could take me to task the way I take people to task. I think it was, really good for us. And, we as Aries, we do like to be in the thick and the weeds of everything and building. Yeah. So it was a great opportunity. So around let's say 14 or a little bit before that, I found myself in what looked like the perfect marriage with a perfect life. But really just nothing was perfect at all.
Right.
And I knew it was time to make like it was like, if I didn't make some changes then, I could just be one of these people who kept on that hamster wheel and waiting for the universe to make change for me. And unfortunately, through the untimely death of my mother, I realized that was a pivotal moment for me, because I realized that like life is really fleeting, nothing is guaranteed. And that if you don't take control of your own life, even though there is obviously God in your life, hopefully, and there's some predetermined fate for you, but if you're paying attention and living consciously, you got to make the most of each day. So basically, everything started to explode shortly after my mother's death in 2010. I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and I was 6 months pregnant with my youngest. And my mother had suffered with sickle cell disease, or, you know, our whole lives, obviously. And so what happens with that, Shar, is you, as a family, I think we had all fantasized about what her death would look like. In other words, when you have somebody who's chronically ill, you know that they're probably not going to make it to meet my grandchildren, right? You know, there's certain things that probably won't happen, but you also imagine these, like, you know, you watch enough Hallmark movies and you imagine this like slow death. You understand, you believe there's going to be these times to have conversations and reminisce and talk, and, you know, you'll have time. Unfortunately, as someone told me shortly after my mother died, that like people unfortunately die daily, regardless of if they're suffering with sickle cell cancer or whatever. They still might get hit by a car. They might, you know, something terrible could still happen. And so that unfortunately is what happened in my family. We thought that, you know, my mother was doing relatively well. She was 60. She'd lived a relatively long life with sickle cell disease. She was 60 years old, and then had a pulmonary embolism and died. At the same time, I was already in this phase of self-exploration and trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Because while everything looks good and my children were amazing, there was something not settled with my life. And a lot of that was born in what was really just like a failing marriage. And my ex-husband and I were doing our best, I think, to just, because it looked so good, to just try and keep up energy that we were given, right? Because it's hard not to, right? You know, in full disclosure, you know, my ex-husband is a supermodel and one of the most people in the world, right? And so it's like I always said, I was married to Halle Berry. And unless you are married to someone like that, right, you don't actually know what that's like. Right. And I'm not saying we should give Halle Berry or my ex-husband sympathy for their extraordinary looks. I'm saying that there is stuff that comes with that. And so what I always wanted to do, not coming from a family of divorce, not understanding what divorce looked like, I was like, okay, let me take control over what I know I can control, which is my career and my children. So at that time, while I was looking for meaning and searching for my own validity, I had started doing some consulting in healthcare and found great reward in it. I felt like all the things that I thought I wanted to do as a child could come together in a way by helping others indirectly, because I certainly was not, I thought I could be a doctor, not smart enough, not smart in that capacity. Like I'm a true marketer. I am a social scientist. I am not a medical doctor. I cannot do science. So when I realized that I could actually make impact by being on the business side of healthcare, this opportunity came to me in 2014 to work in healthcare and do some work that felt incredibly challenging, rewarding, yet meaningful, because at the time, our country was actually opening up to the idea of treating those being impacted by mental health and addiction, behavioral health issues as a real topic, and working behind the scenes to eliminate that stigma was really important to me. And actually, I never knew how much that job itself would actually, I say it all the time, save my life.
It
and my
saved mine
family's life,
too. It has.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it saved my life because not only financially, obviously, and having a rewarding career, but also it got me back on the road, which gave me a little bit of a break from home,
Right.
which I think my ex-husband and I kind of needed some space.
Yeah.
And so that was helpful. The work was incredible. I felt like it was work I could explain to my kids, and they could start to look at why I was working so hard and so many hours, and
Right.
it actually had meaning and it was tangible.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like entertainment work that was harder to explain to them when they were younger, or for them to even find value in, because it didn't mean anything to them.
Yeah.
But they understood about people needing doctors. They understood, once we would open a center or do stuff like that. So it really helped me, and it helped me also understand the challenges, some more of the challenges that I was experiencing at home.
Right.
And so what I was learning at work helped to inform what I was struggling with at home.
Right.
And then helped to give me a little more clarity. Certainly not to be I wouldn't even say to be a better wife, better person, but just to be a more informed individual in the partnership at home and as it related to me, raising my kids. So that was a really, really, really challenging time, because, I'm an only child, and almost every time I had a child, somebody in my family died. So I took that whole cycle of life to a whole other level, which started to be scary. And then my father got diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Wow. And it just like kept going. It was like trying to knock me down at everywhere I looked. It was like, I just became more stressful, right?
Yeah.
The work we were doing became more stressful because of the company's initiatives and just natural growth. It wasn't anything they were doing particularly wrong or bad. It was just stress, the stress of growing a company that quickly with so, with this small cast.
Little resources.
It was like, you were marketing with me. We were doing HR together. I mean, it was like,
I was doing HR by myself when I first started, and they barely gave me staff.
Yeah, right. I was the only marketer for like 10 centers. I mean, it's like, we can go on and on, right? It's just, right. And then also, let's not forget that I think, the reality is that I never thought about it this way, but until recently. But I think you and I are similar this way, that like we were also in many of those situations the only woman, then definitely the only woman of color. Oh, yeah. And like the demands that come with that feeling of needing to over deliver, outperform, make sure our worth is valued, really meeting sort of for the first time, just, traveling to parts of the country where, they had never seen people like you and I. We were like TV stars to them. Right. Like literally, we were so cool. I mean, we wanted to feel good. Just get on a work trip and go to one of those cities that we would go to, So it was like this weird juxtaposition for me of, working really hard. My kids talk about it now, like working till 3 a.m., getting up at 6, driving them to the city to school, coming back to Jersey to go to work where our corporate office was, traveling, working, and then, at home failing, but not even really having time to address that well, but feeling like I was learning about it at work. And then my dad trying to save and help me, but realizing that I was trying to save and help him. And then realizing that, oh my God, somewhere in there, if I don't figure this out, I'm going to wake up 10, 15 years from now and be the stereotype, unfortunately, of what happens to many women, which is you wake up at like 50, 55,
Yeah.
you get divorced because you don't know who you're married to anymore. You don't have a job or your career because you've been so focused on your kids, but that mattered to you. Like I could see myself. I saw it. I saw myself fast tracking towards that. And I am an Aries and I don't like failure. So luckily that, you know, like crashed into me and I woke up and realized, okay, I need to make change. So after we left that job, I went into work for, you know, an incredible organization, started by Anne and Andrew Tisch. And I thought, okay, let me continue on my passion for helping people. And so let me work in a nonprofit education space. Okay. Well, the work was incredibly rewarding. And if you know me, nothing matters more to me than finding equitable opportunities for kids of color, particularly not just in healthcare, but education. I am, you know, this is where me being Canadian really shows up.
Yeah.
And it's like, so the job seemed, it was perfect. It was led by women. We were helping young women also in some public schools. It was very rewarding. However, again, you know, I was still struggling and trying to like manage my dad's health.
Yep.
Now, you know, getting my eldest into private school in New York City, which is like a full-time job in itself. That process is quite arduous.
Yeah.
Time consuming. And then realizing like, seriously, I need to shake up my house.
Yeah.
I need to. And I had no idea what that looked like and what to do. Work became challenging. I was working with a few individuals that, I'm just going to be honest, just didn't like me. Like really, it was the first time I found myself, like, it was clear to everyone I worked with. There was a lot of passive aggressive comments, it was just very, very challenging work situation for me.
Were these women of color or?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, what I realized was that a lot of us in that situation were going through a lot of our own personal situations as well. And I could recognize that, but I will say that it was extraordinarily hurtful for me to not be seen.
Yeah.
And to feel like no matter what I did, there was just like, we couldn't.
They were never gonna accept you.
Yeah.
I call them corporate bullies, you know, in their own right. They, you know, they're there just to make sure you don't get ahead. And they're threatened. It's so sad. Like, and plus, Tamara, you know, not for nothing, you want to show up looking cute every day. That doesn't help either.
Well, you know, it's so funny that you're talking about that, because that was something that person talked about all the time.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Then that's straight jealousy. I like cute people. My thing is, I'd rather hang out with somebody with some fashion sense.
But you know, that's where you and I. But that's where
we look good. This table look good. I want the table to look good. I'm just saying.
Right. It's just, you know, what's so funny? My littlest one, she has that bug so bad. She is so into like fashion and just, like all of it. It's hilarious to watch the little person as it's like sort of growing and budding inside of her. Anyways, listen, there's always multiple sides to the story. Right. I'm sure, you know, it could be said I was not giving what they wanted. It just was, it went really well. And then it was going very well. It was going very well for about a year. And then it just started to feel like everywhere I turned, there was like chaos. So what I did was one day I was like, that's it. I'm going to just change everything today. today. I'm going to change everything today, and I'm going to save my life, and I'm going to save my children. What does that
mean when you say I'm going to change everything today? What did that look like in your head?
It looked like I came home one day and I looked around, and listen, a lot of my friends laugh at me, because I talk about being an immigrant, and they're like, you're just from Canada. You're not, a refugee, Tamara. Stop talking like that.
You're from Jamaica.
Right? They're like, you're not, but listen, you still need a green card. You still need a visa. You still need a work permit. Call it what you want. Nobody was looking for Canadians to come into the country.
Right.
Canada was not looking for me to leave. So no, I did not have my health and life and was not in danger, but this was something that was purposeful. My move to this country was purposeful because my father saw something in me that he knew did not match the way my friends were in Canada. In Canada, brilliant. I mean, the smartest people, like all my friends have multiple degrees. They've paid off their home by 50. Their quality of life is right. Most of them have a great career, great job, and that's it. That's right. Of course, there are some entrepreneurs, but very you don't meet them. You don't hear about them the way you hear about them. And so the way I would talk, my father thought, okay, she's got to come to the US because he could see there was this entrepreneurial spirit in me. And I wasn't raising my hand saying I wanted to be a doctor, lawyer, teacher, whatever. So I needed to, or a banker. So I needed to come to a place like this. So anyway, all of that was going on in my head. I looked around, I walked in my house one day and I felt like a stranger in this house that I had been a part of building for, I guess, 13 years.
Wow.
I was like, I don't even know, how could I let this happen?
Right.
And what I realized was, so what that moment was, I can't change anyone else, so I've got to change myself. The definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Right. And if I keep coming home and I just keep calling my friends, or now my mother's passed away, I have no one to talk to, because that's when I realized my dad was a stereotypical guy. I would try and talk to him. He was like, what would your mother say? And Steve is the cutest man alive, but the more I told him, the more he got stressed out, and he was already sick. So I was like, okay,
I can't tell him.
So, and now, also in these situations, what you learn is some friends, it's hard for them to hear an ongoing story of stress and worry. And so then people start to distance themselves because they don't know what to do. And it can feel, some of them, it can feel like a burden. They don't know how to take it. So basically I just went into a cocoon. I shut down. I came home, did not recognize my house, did not recognize what was happening in it. I was like, this is crazy. This is insane. And I'm responsible for this. Yes. So I am going to call a moving company. I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to find somewhere to live. And that's what I did. And I had a friend help me find my way out of my house. And yes, I moved. I had a moving company come, and I took my children's things and all of their things, and I took some of my stuff, just like clothes, and not even all of them, shoes and stuff, and left with nothing for myself. I left everything there.
We have similar stories, and I know what that moment is. That moment where you say, I did the same thing. I think I left with a garbage bag. That was it. Just one bag. And I didn't care about anything else. I just cared about my peace. Mm-hmm. I said, whatever happens from here, as long as I have peace, that is all I want right now, was that.
Yes.
And it's a moment. See, a lot of times I've heard people say, women, when you see them physically leaving, they've already left. They just physically remove their body from the house or the situation, but our minds already checked out months prior. So I know that moment you had where it was like, that's it. I feel it like it was yesterday. And I did this 18 years ago.
Yeah. And that's so true, because what you start to realize is, okay, now I'm someone different and I'm going to be considered the problem, because now I don't like being here. I don't want to talk to anybody. This is not working. This is not right. And all I can control is myself, because I've tried so hard. Even if I was not using the right approach, I'm not saying that I had all the answers or that right. I'm saying that the only thing I could do that I could actually control was myself, and removing my children from, unfortunately, what was an incredibly unhealthy environment for me and their father. I want to be clear. It was never unhealthy for the children themselves. There was nothing happening to the kids. It was purely between my ex.
I remember you would shield them from that, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
So were they shocked? Like, what did you say to the kids?
Yes, they were shocked. They were shocked because, well, what's funny, Shar, is that you believe you can shield your children, but particularly because, well, what I've been told, because my eldest of 3 is a girl.
Yes.
She was 13. We're much more sort of more quickly emotionally astute and intelligent to what's happening. But the truth is, I came to learn, so was my son. I came to learn that really, other than Leighton, who was youngest, and still maybe she knows, I don't know, she knows less, that they were clear. So ironically, there weren't as many questions as I thought there would be.
There were. Wow.
But I also really I was very communicative, like overly communicative in that moment, though. I was very clear that, this had nothing to do with them.
Right.
This had purely to do with 2 adults who needed time to sort themselves out. And in order to prioritize them and their well-being, we needed to separate the home for a while. That was my directive, and that they should never feel like they had anything to do with it, any cause. They could see their father any moment they wanted to.
Right.
He was welcome to come to our house. He could come see them, eat with them, be with them. He just could not stay over with me. Right. That was it. So I was very, very clear about it. I was very, and I think, so far we'll see, but I think so far that has served us well. Wow. That I shared enough appropriate information.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think they were like, where are we? This place, what is happening? I mean, we went from, a beautiful home that was built in the early 1900s to, sort of like this regular townhouse that was built in the 90s. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it already sort of felt a little dated, but it didn't have that cool feeling our house did.
Yeah.
We definitely had space, but we lost a lot of it.
Right.
It was
an adjustment.
It was an adjustment, but they had all their things.
Yeah.
And I made sure of that. And I made sure that what was important to me was that I used that time to explain to them that the house can be sometimes just where you live.
Yeah.
Right. The home is like our experiences together.
Right.
So I never wanted to make them feel like we were replacing their life at home with this temporary place. So I made it feel like warm enough, but just basic enough that this was like a pit stop. Well, we get it. We figure out what our next phase is going to look like. Let's not overinvest. Let's make sure this place is comfortable and it has what we need, but we're going to live life. And so like on the weekends, we would spend most of our time finally experiencing New York or going to friends' houses and doing things. And we weren't stuck. Like, what I didn't want them to feel like was that we left one place to go rebuild a home immediately somewhere else. That was not it. It was like, this is a pause. This is a pause for all of us to just, like, for the kids to keep going and a pause for me to sort of sort everything out. And ironically, I think I didn't get as many questions as I thought I might, because I think they understood more than I had hoped.
Right. Then yeah. What is now that you've gotten through that and you've gotten out of that, what is the one, because a lot of people are currently going through trying to figure out, am I leaving my marriage? It's been years. I think a lot of folks get really, it's convenience now. And they don't know what to do. Or you have the people that have the same experience you had and decided to leave. And, what is the one thing you learned that you would say going through this process and making that final decision that, what, if I could give one person advice, what would that be?
I think that you should really listen to your gut. And if you're consistently not feeling happy, fulfilled, take an inward look at yourself first, and then do what's right for you. And if you have children, your children. And it really does all sort out. Yeah. There are many times and many people, believe you me, I didn't even move out with the intention of getting divorced. It wasn't even like that was a thought.
Yeah.
It was really like, I need this to stop. Somebody has to take control of this spiral downwards, this sort of, what is the hamster wheel? Yeah. And take control of it. So I would say my advice is to, one, go into marriage being really clear. I used to think expectations were bad. Like I used to think that, and I'm not talking about, like, I expect that the cover of the toilet seat is always down. And if you don't
do the money.
None of that stuff, right? I mean, that's also something I would argue that a lot of us need to let go of, right? The character assassinations of other people because they don't fit the exact mold of what we want them to be, or what our father did or our mother did, like all of that too can destroy marriages for nothing.
Like, I like that. The character assassination.
Oh yeah. The character assassination is people do it all the time. Yeah. I mean, that's why I said we had to stop. I mean, it got to the point where it was like, when you're, as my 13-year-old at the time said, when you're fighting about like laundry and what time dinner's on the table, like, and that becomes a character assassination, you got a problem. Like there's like a problem, right? Wow. So my advice would be to like really look inward and be clear about who you are and not be apologetic for it. And then the other thing that really has completely transformed my life in every relationship, but particularly makes the relationship I'm in now so successful. But I'm doing this at work and how I work with people. I'm doing this with my children, with my friends, which is when you have a problem or disagreement, let's talk about the issue and not about each other.
Yes.
So, yes. Like we're talking about the thing, not about us.
Right. Yes.
Right.
I learned that one. I do, like, throw the problem at the table and focus on that.
Yeah. And focus on what you're talking about. Yeah. And then the real grown-up, like the real grown-up move is that when that's resolved, it's done.
Yes.
Yeah, bring it back up. There's nothing to talk about again. Of course, unless, there's nothing to talk about, because if you have a mature relationship, and I've tested this even with my kids, it really works, whether you're like 11 or 45. So if you want to talk about when something happened, you have to be, but you have to be really ready to be incredibly vulnerable.
Yes.
Open. And it's, for me, that's been like the hardest thing to get over, because what I realized was the way that I got to function for so many years was that I could go outside in the real world and have this huge, massive career and like talk all day and like manage things and market and create all these beautiful things, and then come home and not say a word.
Right.
I had gone from like fighting and probably being gregarious and annoying to my ex and fighting and all the time, just trying to fix, because it's
Yeah.
just what I knew,
Yeah.
which was, I'm sure, not the right approach at all. To then like, okay, if I just make myself a shrinking violet and not seen, we'll be better off, right? Like, let's not talk, let's not do anything, let's just coexist. So I went to from not talking.
Yeah.
So the hardest thing has been learning now
How to speak.
talk. Yes, how to communicate and like not be afraid of it. Because the other thing that can happen, as you know, is that if you do let like a lot of little things fester,
Mm-hmm.
you don't address it,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes this big thing of nothing. And the poor other person doesn't even know
what you're talking about anymore.
what you're talking about anymore.
Because you just blow up. And you're blowing up because everything kind of just, you let it build up.
Mm-hmm.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm so like happy to hear this new Tamara. I love it. I just love the maturity of this conversation, because the truth is, I think, even me trying to figure out my own, relationship woes, as you could tell, you always used to say, why don't you not dating? Why? Because I was afraid of dating because of all the past experiences that I had. And I was like, you know what? I'm better off just being by myself. How about that? Because I've never gotten that mature enough individual where let's talk, let's talk about it. Let's figure out why you said that, or why I said that, or where it's coming from. Is it coming from a deeper place? It really does take two intentional individuals to say, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then do it and do whatever it takes to make it work.
Yes. But it does take that. I was right there with you. I never imagined being with somebody else. I didn't even leave with the intention, like this clear direction of wanting to get divorced.
Right.
I never thought about like, so many people talk about like, oh, you better leave now because, I mean, frankly, if I listened to what the world told me, the world messaging was like, I was going to be alone forever with these 3 kids. Like, what was that woman living in a shoe by herself?
Okay.
Listen,
well, no, you're not. Okay. Because the world showed up for you. The universe said, oh, Tamara's available.
Yeah. So I did not, I didn't know that, but I met somebody who did what you just said, which was like, no, we've both been through a lot. We're going to do this differently.
Right.
We're going to do this differently, Tamara.
Right.
We're going to do this differently, Tamara.
No, isn't that a beautiful feeling when somebody said, let's, if we're going to do this, let's,
Yeah. Like really, I mean, and frankly,
I have to say it's you're glowing.
Thank you. I feel that inner happis. So that's really good. But, I also, listen, I've walked into a situation that is, probably on the outside, incredibly complicated, lots of questions. I get it. And what's ironic about it, Shar, is that we both say it's the easiest thing we've ever done.
Right.
It's just complicated for everybody else around us, right? For me, once I got past the fact that, it's like, yes, I will own it. I will raise my hand and say I did it. I do not advise anyone to do this, but yes, 2 people separated from spouses and I fall in love with my boss. Yes.
Girl.
Yeah.
Dear life warriors, let me talk to my life warriors for a minute. Love is love. It's okay if you fall in love. I know. I think, society and we create, especially from an HR standpoint, they was like, they have the relationship clause in the handbook, which it doesn't even make sense. Why do we even put relationship clause in that handbook? At the end of the day, you don't know where love is gonna come from. You just don't know.
That is true. I will tell you that.
And that clause might have blocked a lot of beautiful marriages, by the way. We just, it's only the daring, like Tamara, like push past the clause and do it anyway. Because she's an Aries, people. She's an Aries.
That should say enough. Listen, I'm people like you.
I want to know the story. So you went to work, you got hired. Did he interview you, by the way?
So,
because that says it all.
Okay, no. So here's what happened. I have the great pleasure of running a company called WHTWRKS, which was WHTWRKS, which was founded by my now husband,
yes.
And one of his best friends, Jeff Burrows, who is a colleague and friend of mine of more than 25 years. Oh, okay. I worked with Jeff in music at the beginning of my career. And shortly after I had moved out and I was doing I had left Student Leadership Network. I was doing some consulting. Two of my closest friends, Jeff Burrows and Brett Wright, invited me out to go. We went to celebrate another colleague's 50th birthday.
Right.
And while we were out reminiscing about old times and the music industry back in the 90s and all that, started talking to Jeff about what he had been doing for work. We decided to meet to have dinner, to talk more about it. He was running marketing at Def Jam. And I did not know that he had started this company called WHTWRKS with Martin. Right. So during that meeting, he told me about WHTWRKS and he said, you know what, based on what you just did at the healthcare company,
right,
you might be a really good fit right now for where we are with the agency. And I was like, what agency? Right. He was like, damn, T, you've been missing for so long that like, you didn't even realize I've had this agency for 6-7 years. I was like, nope, no clue. Showed me a picture of Martin. I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know. Never seen him, never heard of him. I don't know. So Martin was in town for the week. He would travel from Miami to New York and to work. And he had his daughter, Kennedy, my beautiful bonus daughter, Kennedy, for the summer. And so we decided to meet to have lunch. So he told me he was bringing Kennedy. So I brought Leighton. So the funny part of the story is, yes, the day that we met, our two daughters as kids met as well. It was a completely professional meeting. There was nothing. I just noticed he was a great dad.
It wasn't a party that was like, oh.
Honestly,
we're like, oh, he's cute.
Well, I mean, look at him. It's hard not to say. Every single person
professional, but still that while you're talking, you're still like, great teeth.
Yeah. Right? Oh, yes. Y'all with your good teeth. I'm done with you. You knew I would say that because I'm obsessed with your teeth. And if anybody looks at Martin's teeth, we're very annoyed about this in my family, by the way. Yes, he has perfect teeth. It's
really?
Not normal. Yes.
I don't know. I just said that out of nowhere because I'm always looking at people's teeth.
He's going to die laughing because this is one of the first things, like, as we were becoming better friends, I would like poke on his teeth and be like, come on, tell me you really didn't have braces. You didn't have like a retainer back there somewhere. How are your teeth perfect too?
Perfect.
Listen, you can't sit across from Chilaka. You can't sit across from Martin and not be like, wow, he's good looking. That's like not, we're human, right? And there were definitely things that I'm still a little bit old school, and particularly then, like after that moment that Jeff showed me his picture on Instagram to be like, this is Martin, you don't know him? I said, no, I actually never looked him up again. Right. I don't know why. I didn't Google him. I swear to you, I didn't Google him. I didn't look on LinkedIn. I didn't even look on his Instagram page again. Right. So I think what did happen, which I was not prepared for, was that when I got there, to lunch. It was easy to figure out who he was because he was the only other Black person in the room. I knew that much, that he was Black, but he stood up and he's, 6'5".
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Woo.
Yes, people don't realize that fully from pictures.
Yeah.
He's a real 6'5".
But I figured
The
he had
only
to
reason
be
I can't tell because I
dressed
wear heels, but I also remember I wear heels all the
all the
time.
time. Yeah.
So when I take off my heels, I am like a shrimp next to him for the
Yeah.
first time ever. But anyway, so that was like, to be honest, that was more my first surprise. Like, wow,
He's
okay.
that tall.
Oh, he's tall. Okay.
I'm curious. So, okay.
And yeah, but my kid was like,
Yeah, the kids
and
were there.
also the kids were there. And also I was like, he's married, I'm married. I mean, I wasn't even, and remember, Char, like we may look at people and think, yeah, those are nice teeth, man, you look good. But I also was like, I didn't come this far.
I'm trying to get a job, right?
I'm trying to get a job. Like, I don't care what he's doing or who he, like, I didn't I never thought about him that way. I genuinely didn't.
Did he hire you on the spot?
So what we decided to do was that I would take like an investigative look at what it would be like working with them. Oh. So like I would find, because I was consulting, I could do that. So I could come in and out. I wanted to learn. I was also like, I had finally learned, Char, what you used to teach us, which is the company interviews you, but you interview them too.
Yes. I taught you one thing. Look at me.
She taught me a lot, but that is one important thing, everybody.
Yes.
Even if it's your first job out of college, don't let them just interview you, you interview them. So it was really hard because obviously it was not like a big company with a big office and like a lot of things that I could use to evaluate the situation. It was more like I needed to go see how he worked and what he was working on to like really better understand what the opportunity could be.
Right.
Because really I was going to come on as like a consultant, right? To just help them grow the business, see what clients I could bring on or help Martin with clients he had. So there was nothing fully to commit to at that point. So we started, working together, and what's funny is a client of ours just actually learned that we got married. And what's funny is I actually don't know, maybe if they watch this, they'll see, I don't think they realize that Martin and I actually met there. Like we didn't know each other. I think there are some people who think like, actually this was going on much longer than it was or anything like that. It really was not. We were both like, in our being respectful of and in our own situations that we were still, marriages and such that we were trying to sort out, frankly, that I don't think either one of us really wanted to fail, but they just were not right at all. I'm sorry to say, they just weren't. So, with time, I did have, it was hard. It was hard to deny that Martin and I very quickly became a really successful work duo.
Right.
Like for real,
I could see it.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff is really good this way at identifying talent.
Yeah.
Right. Similar to music, when he saw it, he was like, oh, the two of you together, because actually Martin and I really complement each other because we work completely different, but always towards the same goal. And he can handle my Aries, as they call it, lawyer voice. When I get like, boss lady. Sometimes it's a lot and he asks me to tone it down a bit, but we really come to everything from like a different perspective, both of which those perspectives are needed. So it makes a much richer experience. So we immediately really found this really good synergy with work. Like the best synergy I've ever had with anybody.
Not only just because it is a marketing agency, like I've always said, I knew where you belonged. Like the healthcare was nice and everything, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, we could marry. I mean, he is just like, literally, I can't wait for you to meet him and talk to you. You will fall in love, as does everybody. He's brilliant. And he brings like a particular discipline that comes from having, an MBA from one of the best business schools in the country and having done the tour of working at big CPG companies.
Right.
So he has that acumen,
nice.
which marries with my more like my brain that works like a chess, a chess game, and how I can like see, I have more like you. I have the operational brain.
Right.
I'm like, he really is CEO, and I'm more of, if I had to be in a C-suite role, would be COO, right? That's why president is right for me, because I'm a visionary and I know how to put things together and help them grow, succeed, and either put them on the market or just build the company.
Right.
Martin sees that, but he's much more in the weeds of like these details that you and I are like, whatever. Let's keep moving.
I'm going to have you guys I'm going to send you a link to take this behavioral assessment. This is one of the things I've been doing in organizations, is giving them this assessment. And it pretty much gives you, it's going to blow your mind, tells you how you operate at work, like who you are. Like you just said, you're a visionary. I wouldn't be surprised if you and I have the same profile, where we don't care about the weeds. We're like, and it helps, right? And it helps you actually communicate better, because you know exactly, this is how to communicate to Tamara, this is how to communicate to a Martin, this is how you guys' relationship look. It's really amazing. But anyway, continue, because this is such a great story. I'm glad you took
So, it's unfortunate, and I feel sad that I think some people may think there was something happening before there was, but there really wasn't.
Unfortunate. It's not their business.
It's just, I know I'm still working on that side.
I know, like
it's like, that's your dad's side.
Like we're not concerned. At the end of the day, you're happy, you're in love. It's beautiful.
But truthfully, we were really not. It was like literally finding your work-life partner. Literally, it was like a groove I had never found before.
Right.
And then with time, you spend a lot of time with people. And I honestly just thought sometimes when people would make comments like, "Oh, you guys must like each other," I was like, they're just being stereotypical. Like, two tall beige people must like each other, must be doing something. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I kind of got, so for me, because of ego, worry, concern, I was like, I'm never doing that. Like, even when my girlfriends would be like, Tamara, I mean, he's separated now, like Tamara. And I was like, being all tight. Right. So what I did realize though, was that when we both like sort of opened our minds to this and had to say what you just said, which was, I don't care what other people think, because we know we were doing the right thing by people. Like, we know it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And I don't care, what people think. Listen, it's definitely different than anything I ever imagined, but it's better also than I ever imagined, because, for me, what I realized is all I ever wanted is what I have now.
Right.
But what it comes with is, we have, we have other parents in our lives that we respect, and we have to respect their roles in parenting our collective 5 children.
Right. Woo.
And, how I am as a mom, like the same way you are. Like, there's no difference in the way that I treat Liam or Kennedy in the way that I treat my children, that I birthed. And the same for Martin. And I think what we had to do was decide, we both came, listen, I'm sure on both sides there were a lot, right? It was like, I was in no way was I married to some famous, like I had some big famous marriage, but I know that it's not easy to step in, also after the perceptions of me and Brent, right?
Right.
That's not easy. You know, um, Martin was having a baby with his ex-wife, while we decided to give this a try. I mean, it's complicated for some,
Not, I
but
mean, I think
for us,
anything,
it was not. It
right,
was so not. It was like, I've never had an issue. He's never had an issue. Like the people around us have lots of issues, but we don't, about us, but we don't have issues. Right. I actually can't, you know what? I should not speak on behalf of anyone else in our life.
right,
I can only speak, to be clear, about Martin and myself.
right.
And honestly, we have nothing but respect for the fact that we have been gifted 5 beautiful children with other people in our life,
Right.
and that's just what it
You know what
is.
I love? I've grown to realize the most beautiful things always comes with a little complication.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes,
weird how that works, but when things start to get complicated and a little, it's like it's trying to stop you. It's meant to stop you from actually walking into the true purpose or the true destiny that was already, the path was already laid for you. So that's why when complication comes in, this is where it make us second guess, and we're like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this. Or, look, you could have missed the train if you had listened to all that. Like, you had to go within and say, what do we have? Let's box everybody out.
yep,
What do we really have? And let's
yeah,
focus on us.
yes.
That
And
was
that's how Martin speaks. And I had never been with somebody who was so verbose and communicative and really clear.
right.
He was really, really clear. And then what actually happened that helped, I mean, didn't help, but it was interesting timing, was that I could really see Martin for who he was and
Right.
what he wanted to do.
Right.
Was really clear about it and always very encouraging, never limiting what he wanted to do. I mean, the man could work 20 hours a day. He knows more people, is more well-connected, more well-regarded, is just so smart. And I knew that there was like more for him. So
Yes.
as we started, What Works was like ballooning, we were killing it. He basically turned it over to me. He turned it over to me because
So
he
beautiful.
also received this opportunity of a lifetime that he really wanted more than anything, which was to help build a company called A-Frame. And he was meant to do it. Like you could just see, it was like clear he had done his work at What Works and he needed to go do this at A-Frame. And so, he looked at me and asked me if I would be willing to, and if he and Jeff could trust me to take on this role. And, in many ways, it was like beyond just honestly an honor, but also like, wow, okay, the weight of the responsibility is really on me, right? Because this is not just like me potentially messing something up at some company. This is like now my partner's
Yeah.
company, right? Now there's like a lot on the line. But I felt for the first time, like in my life, it was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. All this led to this
Yeah.
right now. And this is my chance. If I can't do this, then I can't go do this somewhere else. So,
Trust, isn't there something about the trust that makes you really, truly, it makes you want to make it happen?
yes,
Yeah, like the trust, literally saying, here you go. That's a big deal. But that does something, to you as well. And like, I'm gonna make this happen just because he believes in me.
absolutely. Right. And so, it's like, everything continued to grow and grow and grow. And again, I never even thought about, honestly, I was like, okay, this is good. You know, we both kind of had a hard time. We're just going to like stay like this. We'll be like partners for life, in business, and we'll just keep going. And it was like, we both thought we never want to be married again, blah, 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 like all that stuff. And then one day we were like, well, that's weird. Like, why wouldn't we get married? Actually, like,
I know, like,
so right. It's not like we don't believe in marriage. We actually are, we believe in it. There's some who get to a place who really believe, you know, that they don't believe in it. But for us, we really believed in it. We started talking about it, but I still didn't think, you know, it would all come to fruition the way it has. But Martin is an incredible visionary and has, you know, really has an eye for what's right. And I think, you know, through both of us making some really complicated decisions, the best time of our life is here right now. Yeah. And I love the work we're doing, because honestly, what I found was that I was able to marry this idea. So yes, while I'm no longer necessarily, you know, working in healthcare and hope, you know, we are What Works largely, even though we do a lot of general market work right now, particularly since 2020, we have become like really a trusted advisor and partner to some of the world's biggest brands. Beautiful. To help bridge the gap to understanding diverse communities. And we take that role really seriously. Okay. So while, you know, we're not creating widgets, we're not saving lives. What we are doing is hopefully creating messaging and work that helps more people feel included and seen and appropriately, right? Doing our best that way. So I think that's why I feel like it's all, and then I used to joke. It's so weird. It was a while ago that I realized I used to joke and say, man, I wish I had 5 kids. I wish I had 5 kids. Well, here are my 5 kids. See, you put it out there.
It's going to happen. You just don't know the timing.
Or how it's going to come to be.
How it's going to come to you. Be careful the thoughts you put out into the world, people. I say that all the time. Be careful the thoughts you release, because once you release it, you can't get it back.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I'm not necessarily mystical, magical. Like, I don't know a lot about, you know, like the moon and the stars and, you know, all of that. But what I do know for sure that has absolutely played itself out in my life, the more you stay, it's like that book, I think it's called Duck in the Truck for the little kids. And it's about this duck who tries to help his friends get out of being stuck in the mud in the truck. But he's in the truck, just constantly trying to move the truck the same way until he gets out and figures out how to not be mired in the muck. The duck moves the truck. So it's like, that's what I was doing, which was I was in a miserable situation. I was miserable. And I was perpetuating it, because it's like all I would talk, like when I would talk, people would say, I'm not okay. You know, nothing's good. Like, and we have to give ourselves the space to be honest about how we're feeling. But once I could clear my energy and I had my own empty old townhouse, and I wasn't distracted by stuff. And I was just grateful every day to be peaceful. Thankful. I didn't care anymore that the only groceries I could afford were from Trader Joe's. I didn't care. I was just like, oh, it's so peaceful. The minute I started being grateful again for all the small things, the minute I started being happy and like just putting good energy out, good energy came back to me. Literally the minute I switched it.
Wow. So, that's amazing. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love your transformation. I love the journey. I love what's next, because I already see, you know, where you're going already. It's going to be, I don't even think you could picture what's next for yourself, but it's big. It's huge. and you're going to continue to flow. You're going to continue to vibe in the world. And I mean, nothing but blessings for you. I think one of the things you probably don't even know. So I don't know if you remember when I came to interview, I met you in the bathroom the day of my interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, right, because
right,
everyone has been, you were the only person of color that I saw in the bathroom. And I was like, oh, good. At least there's,
yeah.
I said, yes. Oh, good. I fixated on the fact that you were there in order, to make my decision, because I was like, I don't want to be in a sea of like, so I was like, okay, no, there's that girl. There's that, there's that one girl. So, and then to have started and worked so closely with you and getting to know you on a different level, not just work, having our drink sessions.
Yeah. It's very important.
Very important. No, it's just beautiful just seeing you happy, number one. Hearing your story, just hearing how you've elevated in the world, just your inner elevation is beautiful.
Oh, thank
Absolutely
you.
Beautiful. And I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy you came to talk to me today.
I would love to talk to you every day.
But you're so busy now, Madam President.
I know. Oh, I know.
You're so busy now.
So busy. Call my 5 assistants, please.
No. 5 assistants.
I'm joking. There's not one. Right. It's like, hello, this is Carol. Yes, Carol. I'll get Tamara. Hold on, please. Tamara. Hello. Right. There's no, it's not like that.
How many people at the agency? How many people are you managing?
Well, so we flex because we still are boutique. So we have about like 10 kind of full-time like people, our art director, we have people, but then everyone balloons based on the project. So some projects have 40 people, some projects have 20 people, but like we have like a world of consultants and we stick with those people. So like while we use, let's say, research for every project, sometimes our researcher does not have to be a main part of it. So like she's not necessarily full-time, but she's on every project to some degree. So it just, it balloons, but it's, about 10 people. We have an amazing roster of clients right now that are diverse from JP Morgan Chase, Nielsen, Disney, Viacom, CBS, and all their networks. It just goes on, and Nike. And no, it's really, it's like, yeah, I got everything I wanted all at once.
All at once.
There's also, that's like, should be the next conversation at some point. Balance.
No, seriously. We have to keep the conversation going. And honestly, guys, I think you should be inspired by Tamara. Honestly. Hello.
Okay, sorry.
Yes. Yeah. You still have a hard time hearing good things about yourself?
Thank you. I'm working on it.
Work on it. No, I think I'm gonna, end here with this conversation because there's many, many more to have. I hope she comes back on, hopefully in person one day. Eventually I could take this show to that place where I'm sitting on the couch.
You would be so good at that. You should do that.
Having drinks and just chatting it up like girlfriends. No, but what's the one thing you would like to leave my life warriors? We're all about uplifting, empowering, motivating, giving them hope. Again, what is the one thing you would like to say?
It's never too late to refocus, find focus, start your journey. There's many journeys in life. There's no one right or wrong other than finding what matters to you, because when you're happy, it is so true, everyone else around you that matters to you is happy. So don't be afraid of finding that joy and like actually seeking it, but in the most healthy way, not in pursuit of perfection, but in pursuit of real, just basic happiness,
basic happiness. And there you have it, my life warriors. Another wonderful show. I know I am touched. I think this is going to make the rest of my year. Actually, if I never do another interview again, I am fulfilled. So with that being said, do know that there is a coach out here that loves you.